Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I'm your host, Mr. Kadish. And before I get to my fantastic panel of nerds, guys, we got some big announcements that I need to make. So first of all, our top donator, last week, Brian G. stepped in with a $250 super chat to overtake Scotty Dub, who was our previous champion, with a $199 super chat. And just this morning, the gauntlet was thrown down, and Scotty Dub comes in hot with a $399.99 super chat.
Yeah, come get it!
Right.
Let's go, Scotty Dub!
I had just spent time readjusting this goddamn graphic. And Scotty Dub comes in and he's like, reset the graphic, Mr. Kadish. Unlike Brian G., who prefers to peel off his Benjamins one at a time, I say, excuse me while I whip this out. Enjoy those cold tater tots at the kiddie table, Brian G., as I once again officially raised the bar, my man. Going to see Deadpool and Wolverine tomorrow a.m. at my local Alamo Draft House.
Come get it.
Scotty Dub does not play around, guys. He throws down the gauntlet when he sees that his position on the Salty Saturday Morning Show has been threatened. So,
Scotty, you're gonna have a lot of fun too when you see it.
Yep.
Yes.
Fun movie.
We've been hearing a lot of good things about it. Butters and I have not yet had time to watch it. And
I'm going.
You guys are gonna love it.
Call yourself nerds? Call yourself nerds?
Hey,
you don't
what
even see
kind
an
of
opening
nerds
night.
are you?
What kind of a nerd are you?
It's been out for a week
it's
now.
our job to make fun of Marvel all the time and then go see the movies and then that's our job.
It's our
You
job.
guys, that's all your guys' job. I'm going to, just enjoy a movie and, talk about it for a little bit with my friends a week after the fact, because that's what we do at the Salty Nerd Podcast is we talk about new movies a week later. So,
we feel bad because like most of the time we put out our reviews on Saturday morning, and by that time you're already like, the reviews are already done. So
well, Mr. Butters, how are you doing? How's the gaming channel going? How's your head with that very sturdy helmet on it?
The head is good. It's protection, from all the stuff that get thrown at me in our comments from all my excellent takes that I have on everything. And it's a necessary thing that I have to wear these days.
Dutch Butters.
It's kind of fun. I like my helmet. It's gives something people to talk about. And I'm too fat to be in the actual military, so I can pretend on YouTube.
There you go.
So it's fun. The gaming channel
in this day's military, you'll probably get through with a tape test.
Probably be okay. I could be like
you just have to say you're a woman.
Yeah, you identify as a woman and you're fine.
I just need a joystick to play it with a drone, right? I could be one of those guys.
They draft those guys out of high school, man. Those kids aren't even going to college anymore.
I have a cousin who's in college right now on a full ride for video game play. It's wild. I've never heard of such a thing.
I feel like I was born in like the wrong time. I wish I was born like 15 years later.
Right.
Don't let your parents tell you.
And I would have been like a pro, Dota player, Counter-Strike, something. Dude, I would have made a lot of money playing video games because I was really good at them.
Using
my
modern
Twitch
language,
reaction went away.
Using the modern language, no cap, you would have had so much Riz right now.
So much Riz, no cap.
So much Riz.
But anyway, the gaming channel is doing well. We're growing really fast, and we're putting out 2 podcasts a week. Over Kadish's shoulder right there, you see Alex. He's actually working on a podcast that we recorded yesterday that should have been out yesterday, but he had to go do silly things like hang out with his wife and stuff. So the dude needs to get his priorities straight. I'm really upset. And,
that's not what I'm seeing, bro. I'm seeing Pornhub on that screen. So,
well, speaking of Pornhub, he's here. He's queer. He's our shield against all things gender neutral, and his future is so bright. He's got to wear shades. Ryan,
gotta riz it up, yo. Gotta riz it up. You know, I realized these are like the Deadpool glasses you get at the theater. They're really good. The problem with live streams is that you have like 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights, and it gets really bright. I realized with these things, I can watch you guys, I can be a part of this, and I don't gotta leave with eye damage. It's great.
Well, speaking of damage to the eyes, we have Odin from OMB's reviews here. with his shelves that are ever rickety, but his love of pineapple pizza gets him through the night. How you doing, Odin?
Why are your shelves different? Like they're like vertical. They're not aligned.
It's it's a modern shelf. It's a safe space. It's a space saving shelf. So it goes vertical.
Only you, Odin, would have weird 90-degree shelves like that.
No, I saw it and I was like, I don't have a lot of space in my tiny office, and so I really needed to go up and not out. So figured might as well. Also, Matthew, I don't know whether you were trying to say I'm ugly, but with the comment with the lead in there, or if my furniture is an eyesore. I don't know which one it is, but I did recently get the show Godzilla set. Which I was very happy to have. Yeah.
Godzilla
I would like
1?
to also say that Odin, your beard is looking magnificent.
Oh, well, thanks.
It does.
Yes.
It looks.
I appreciate that.
You know what you need to do, bro? You need to get those little braid things with the runes.
I'm gonna do that pretty soon
You know
myself.
what I
I need like another inch or so. On
I
this.
have
I'm
beardaments for Christmas. They were
Yeah,
lost for years, but shout
They
out
have
to
those
Shorty
Viking
Short.
runes, bro.
Yeah.
I almost got them, but my beard needs to be like an inch longer for it to work.
Yeah, I did have one comment because your glasses. Just to make very clear, are those 3D glasses?
Yeah.
No. Okay. So here's the thing: never, ever, ever wear 3D glasses outside of a movie theater. They can actually damage your eyes.
What are you doing, man?
Not damaging my eyes.
3D glasses are made for low light. That's why if you've ever noticed, whenever a 3D movie is being shown, the light is actually lower than a regular movie. If you try and wear them outside, you can actually damage your eyes.
Well, I'm not wearing them outside in the sun. I'm in the office.
This sounds like fear mongering.
Look, I
work
don't
in
know.
a theater. Okay.
When I take them off, my eyes hurt. When I put them on, my eyes don't hurt.
I had to tell people, please, hey, don't wear those outside because you could actually go blind.
Yeah.
I can
Next thing you
understand
know,
outside in the sun, but
next thing you know, Odin's going to be saying that Kamala Harris wasn't border czar.
That's true.
Well, I can say
listen up, Odin. Listen up, fam. These glasses are straight riz. I'm
fake
gonna blow
news.
up this cancel culture. Okay.
It's fake
Fake news, misinformation.
I appreciated your performance last night, though, at the Olympics, though, Brian.
I know. Yeah, you know what's funny is I was expecting a lot of comments after
is
that
that you?
opening of the Olympics.
Was
like
that you in the blue suit?
It was I was the guy with his balls hanging out next to the 6-year-old child. That was me.
Oh, so disgusting.
It's so incredible. I'm watching that. I'm like, what is going on? Like, wait, this feels like end times, dude. It's crazy.
It's France. What are you going to do? Speaking of not knowing what to do, we have Tom Connors Jr. joining us. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, he was there last night too.
Well, first of all, if I hear
was
one
in the
more
center
person
of the
say
table.
Riz, I'm gonna slap a bitch.
That's not
No
Riz,
cap.
man.
It's
No
high
cap.
key,
No
yo.
cap on that.
Listen,
You gotta get the Skibidi
Tom,
toilet, man.
you're a
Skibidi
snap. Let's sip tea and talk about movies.
Godzilla collection is kind of adorable. So yeah, you don't even want me to start bringing mine out. I got bootlegs, y'all.
Jesus, Tom, talking about coming out whipping your dick on the table. It's like, here's mine.
Straight bussin'.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Speaking about straight bussing dicks on the table, we have Brett D.
No
here.
clapback.
And
Thank you.
and I didn't even have to fly him out to Vegas to be on the show.
That is
So
If you want the Gen Z parlance for what Tom just did to Odin, he mogged him.
Oh, mogged.
He mogged him.
What the hell is that?
No cap.
I didn't even see him naked.
That I'm just relaying the Gen Z slang to you.
You had to just, sling out your Skibidi, Blu-rays.
No.
Listen,
no,
don't
the
drag
cops
the
dropped-
finesse.
no,
No
the
cap.
cops
He's
dropped the
risen
charges.
straight cis. Send it, yo.
The cops dropped the charges. They
Next-
did not stick.
But that
I need
beard
to get
is
my-
drip. That beard is drip.
I need to get my dictionary.
What the hell does drip mean?
I
Last time
think
I had
it
to
means
drip, I got a shot.
I know. I think it means good. No.
I got two 12-year-old twins that play Fortnite all day, and and they don't believe in headphones anymore, even though they have 16 pairs. So I just hear speakers, and I just hear nothing but 15-year-olds screaming all day long, bro.
Well, guys,
I need to get
Guys.
soundproofing in here.
Guys, speaking of dripping, I want to let everyone know that we're going to be redirecting everyone to the Real McCoy podcast by Mephisto after the Salty Saturday show is over. So if you guys want to stick around for that, they always have really good movie talks over there. And
I'm gonna
also,
translate for Gen Z. We've been into simp Mephisto's movie reviews. No camp. He'll go hit it up. It's a straight snack. My camp bros.
Brian, you got to
I
stop.
hope you go blind.
Jesus, what is happening?
Brian, you're supposed to be genderqueer, not our hip young translator. Okay, so There are shield
High
stands. Our
key
shield.
Riz. High key Riz.
Translator.
Sip teas.
All right. Speaking of Riz, we also want to try and hit 10 new memberships during the course of today's live stream. And we're already almost halfway there because the queen of gifted memberships, Jillian N, has gifted 5. And of course, Eric Winberg has gifted 1. So I want to appreciate you guys.
Can I break in really quick, Matt? Let me break in.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Jillian for gifting me a membership to my own channel. It was very, very nice. And I keep getting spam phone calls. Jesus, what's going on?
She's cool like that. Yeah. Also, Wendy Hunter has a members chat for 9 months. She says, "Hello, let's get salty."
Yeah, vibe check that drip.
Yes, we're going to check that drip in just a moment. Want to give a big shout out to even though he's already been dethroned today, want to give a big shout out to Brian G for his $250 super chat last week, which broke the record, which was formerly held by Scotty Dub, who now holds the record yet again, but the graphic, was already updated. So want to give Brian his credit for, what he did last week, because he not only gifted us $250 in super chats, but he did it like 3 times throughout the course of the.
I thought it was $300 that he did $300 super chats.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But also Scotty Dub and William Forbes, still top super chatters. Mexican Iron Man, who's one of our most consistent donators, although he wasn't on last week, surprisingly enough. Maybe he's finally retreated to his bunker, and he's not coming out till after the election's over.
Oh,
And Tom, you got one. Dang it.
And of course, we have Jillian N, WG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg as some of our top gifters. Really appreciate you guys. And we're going to be moving on to talk about some other stuff now, because it's time to get the show started. And this wasn't on the call sheet, guys, but I just wanted to talk really quick about the announcement that the show Dexter is going to be returning at from Comic-Con. They announced this stuff. And we have this story from Hollywood Reporter that the new series is called Dexter Resurrection. And it's basically Michael C. Hall is returning as Dexter, who, for those of you who don't know, actually died at the end of the quote unquote final season, which was Dexter New Blood.
It was so bad.
And it was very obvious. Well, I liked it up until the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, so did I.
But the last 2 episodes.
Want to see
really
a show called Destroy an Erection? I don't understand.
Yeah,
Look,
exactly.
you can't my problem was that it didn't take place in Florida, in Miami. The setting was such an important part of that show, the atmosphere that the show got, and the characters that were born out of it. So I just I don't.
It made sense to move it away from Miami, though. It made sense, and having it in a different setting made it very different. It made the show different, especially in the ice setting versus the cold versus the hot Miami.
Well,
it makes sense.
It had a vice. It was Miami, so yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
I'm just rolling today.
What's interesting about Dexter, so first of all, they're doing this prequel series, which is completely unnecessary.
Yep.
But Showtime and Paramount are so desperate for TV shows people actually want to watch.
Dexter?
That they're giving it the young Sheldon treatment.
Called Original Sin.
Yeah.
See, the first animal he killed in the first person.
Michael C. Hall is narrating it, though.
Yes.
So Michael C. Hall, who was born to play this role, let's be real. But he obviously doesn't have a whole lot of propositions out there because he is just doing anything Dexter. What's next? An animated Dexter, a comics Dexter? What is that? What are those?
He did some Netflix show right at a couple of years ago. That's the last thing I remember him doing.
I never saw Dexter.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I was a big fan of Dexter back when it premiered. I know that Brett's gotten into it recently. I also read the books, which were very different from the show.
When I saw the original series back in the early 2010s after the first few seasons original run, and never needed it to go past season 4 or 5 at most. But
Dexter peaked with season 4, and then it was just a steady decline.
I also don't know if I want to see that, because I'm assuming James Remar isn't playing his dad. Right in the prequel series, and he was a big part of it as well. The relationship between Dexter and his dad in the flashbacks.
No, they have a different actor playing Harry. But also in New Blood, they couldn't get James Remar back, and so they replaced him with his sister. I forget her name, Carpenter, something Carpenter, Jessica Carpenter. It was just, I liked New Blood up to a point, and then it got really bad. And they did that whole series to try to fix the finale of the original series, which was terrible. Yeah. And then they dropped the ball yet again. It was so weird. But like it's even weirder to me that because there's a hardcore fan base of Dexterites out there that love the show.
I still love Dexter, even with the missteps.
Yeah.
I just don't know if you can go back to it, right? Like, maybe it's one of those things where, like, if I don't like a pilot of something or the first episode of something, sometimes that can bias me against it entirely. And I couldn't get past the new setting when they did Dexter New Blood, and maybe that colored my opinion of it. And the characters that I loved, obviously, Deb is there, but she's not there. And it didn't work for me, but I know that a lot of other people thought it wasn't too bad. I did like that they did weekly releases when it came out rather than, dumping it all at once, because it does feel like a show that came from an era where it's one of those last shows where you were kind of waiting for the next episode to come out, a bit like Game of
it was also a Showtime original, and so like they do the weekly releases. But the thing that kills me about this announcement is they made no bones about it. Like Dexter flat out was killed at the end of New Blood. Like there's no ambiguity as to like what happened to the guy. And then they announced that, he's coming back to life somehow. I'm like, what's going on here?
He's going to wake up in some like hunter's cabin being tended to by someone or something like that.
I mean, a writer can get you out of this. It's not going to be
100%.
pretty, but a writer can get you out of it. I mean, or they could do like the route Deb went, right? Like where she's a figment of his imagination in New Blood.
Yeah, maybe he's a figment to his kid's imagination.
Yeah.
Just to get it straight, we're talking about Dexter, right? The little kid who's the mad scientist and has the lab in his closet.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're
right? No. This one's
the
serial
we already
killer
had
that
a show about it when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Why do we need another one?
He has a laboratory.
He had a little laboratory. He was always trying to kill his sister. I mean,
it's rare, but there are a lot of good shows, and it's a rare thing. There's a lot of good shows that have a rough pilot or a rough, half season or whatever that managed
that's totally
to
not where I thought you were going to go.
Lock on to chemistry. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get us back on track because you guys are trying to go back to a weird
there's a lot of
thing.
good shows made by
Brian,
but yeah,
Brian,
it's entirely possible for you to have a couple bad episodes, but then you find your chemistry and you come into it.
Brian,
and there's some shows that do that.
That phenomenon is something I was more acceptable. Like I found more acceptable back when there wasn't as many options. And these days I just don't give them the leeway. Like it's have you ever seen the meme? It says like this show gets great once you get past the first 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And it really hits its stride.
Right. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the first season is horrible. But then after that it gets great. Yeah. But you gotta get through 20 episodes before it gets good. That's a lot.
Brian, one of the things about Dexter is like it started off great, and then it had like 5 terrible seasons, and then like an extra season to fix the 5 terrible seasons that then like dropped the ball at the end of that season. So it's a very odd situation. And plus, in the books, I don't know if you guys ever read the books, but the books go straight supernatural. Like there's actual like demons and stuff in the books. And
I remember that. I always expected that to happen, and they never went that way, which I think would have been cool.
Maybe that's what they do.
I got a book like that. It's called the Necronomicon.
If there's precedent,
they should go supernatural with it. Why not?
Yeah, if there's precedent in the source material, I don't see
straight up demons in that bitch. I tell you what.
Did you lop off your hand because it went bad, Tom?
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Did you call Keanu Reeves to come and get rid of it?
I've been rewatching old episodes of the really, really bad Dresden Files TV adaptation that they made because
that's rough.
I love the books, and the TV show with Paul Blackthorne is really bad, and I love every second of it.
But there's something about it though, where like the characters are just good enough. There's something about it that is addictive, even though it's not very good television.
Nope.
So what you guys are telling me is that I'm going to have to actually watch Dexter someday.
Yes.
Well, in all seriousness, the reason I didn't watch Dexter is because what Matt just said here a little bit ago, and that was it has like 1 or 2 good seasons and the rest is trash. Then they tried fixing it and screwed that up too.
Just watch the first 4 seasons; you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to get to Yvonne. That's the good part.
No.
I don't like Yvonne. I don't
hard disagree.
Climax though. If I don't get to finish, Yvonne. I mean, I just get blue balls.
You won't when you get to your own, that's for sure.
I can watch a show right up until like the second to last episode, and if I lose interest, I just turn it off. Like I do not have any complaints at all.
Yeah. Well, guys, I want to give a big shout out to Samuel Schwager, who gifted 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships, who helped us hit our goal for today. Thank you, Samuel. Always appreciate that. And Shane H. Wilder for $1.99. Busy at work. Just wanted to say, sup, nerds.
Sup,
nerds?
No cap.
All right, guys. So speaking of
I used that right.
No, you didn't. Speaking of bad TV shows, I want to talk a little bit about Severance and how it is now one of the most expensive TV shows to ever be made. I don't know if you guys know this or not. Well, I watched it, and it was actually a pretty good show, but it hasn't been on the air for like another 3 years now, something like that. And the season 2 has cost over $200 million. And if people are at all familiar with Severance, they know that it just takes place in like an office building. So people are like, how is this show costing $20 million per episode?
Money laundering.
And it does have like a lot of big names in it. Like it has like Christopher Walken and John Turturro and stuff like that. But what this article on Screen Rant talks about is one of the reasons why it cost so much money is because it was being filmed during the actors and writers strike. And Apple had to keep shelling out money to keep the production going during the strikes. And that's one of the reasons why like the budget like really ramped up.
Wait, so the actors crossed the picket lines to do it?
No, they literally had to pause production during the strike.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? Like, holy crap. Okay.
Yeah. And Apple had to keep paying to keep the sets alive, keep the crew from like leaving and going to do other gigs, like all this other stuff. So they were just basically everyone who was working on this show was getting money for doing nothing for like a couple months there. But I wanted to also kind of couch this into this other story that I want to talk about today, which is that Apple is trying to rein in Hollywood spending after years of losses. And this article is kind of interesting. It's from Bloomberg. And so it goes into like how Netflix is the undisputed king of the streaming wars now. Like they flat out won. But Apple spent something like $20 billion to produce all of its original shows and stuff. And nobody even watches Apple TV because they're terrible at marketing.
And listen to us, they would have known all this years ago.
Yeah. But Apple is basically now pulling back on its spending on original series, and ironically, Apple has some of the best original series out there because, I've watched a lot of their stuff, and they actually have really good content. It's just that nobody knows it exists. So I wanted to throw this to Odin first of all. Odin, have you seen Severance season 1? What do you think about it being so expensive for season 2 and Apple's austerity measures?
I've not seen it, but I've heard relatively good things about it. And Apple TV is one of those interesting services because it does have, I think, some of the better, TV programming as far as like shows that I really enjoy. I know that we've talked before about how really good. Oh my goodness, why am I blanking on the name of it now? It's because we're like in this lull where I don't know if we're going to get any more of the show or not. Mythic Quest. So Mythic Quest was fantastic, though. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mythic Quest started somewhere else and then they picked it up.
No, it was a joint venture with Ubisoft and Apple.
Okay. So it's always been an Apple. Okay. So so that's a show that obviously, homegrown by them. That's been really good. My wife and I were also a pretty big fan of the newest show, which is, my gosh, the guy that played Old Greg is in it. Dick Turpin, the made up adventures of Dick Turpin, which was actually also pretty fun. So they've got some good shows on there, terrible names that obviously I can just somehow never remember.
Don't forget about Invasion, Odin. It's the best thing.
Yes, because all of your positive praise of that show has made me want to watch every episode of it. And so it's interesting because they have those really good shows. Ted Lasso, of course, is the one that kind of broke out of the box, I guess you could say, right? It kind of got more attention outside and probably brought some people in. But the shows that I just mentioned are ones where it's like, I like it, my wife likes it, but it's not going to be anything that's going to bring on a bunch of new subscribers. And so for them to announce austerity measures, I think is definitely a great idea, because they need to rein in a lot of this. I think Disney would also be wise to start doing this, because in both cases, they're spending it not only on TV shows, but also on movies. And something that I've been covering, at least on my channel, is how almost every single Apple movie that they've either bought the rights to or that they've actually produced have just been massive flops, because they put so much money into it, and or they spend so much money to get the rights to it. And so they just make nothing theatrically. So it's a wise move. It's many years too late at this point, as Tom was saying. If they actually were, had any common sense and were, kind of listening to the wisdom of the crowds, they may have been able to figure this out beforehand. But I guess better late than never. And the one argument that people always bring up in the comments whenever I mention an Apple movie is flopping is, well, it's not like they care, because it's like they're $1 trillion company. So, I mean, what's the big deal? It's like, yeah, you still don't want to ever be losing hundreds of billions of dollars on anything. I mean, even if you have $1 trillion, that's not sustainable over a long period of time. So happy to see that they're finally figuring that out. But we'll see if it actually goes forward, because, Marvel, Kevin Feige and everyone else, like Bob Iger, came out and said, oh yeah, you know what, we're going to start to rein things in. And it's like, not really. It just seems like you've cut off maybe one movie a year, it seems, maybe one series a year, because they have so much still left in the pipe that we're not going to see any of the so-called cuts or bringing things back, austerity measures from Disney for quite some time. And honestly, I don't think they were ever going to see it.
Yeah, and I want to throw this to Brian, because Brian, Apple, it seems like Apple TV was really just an excuse to like go star fucking, where they're like, we're going to schmooze with Hollywood elites. We're going to put out movies that nobody wants to watch so that we can get awards and brag about how many awards we've won. You yourself were very highly critical of Killers of the Flower Moon, that Apple produced for Martin Scorsese, put out in theaters just so it could get, Oscar nominations and all this other stuff.
It was like Oscar nomination, the movie.
But what I want to ask you is, why do you think Apple is so bad at marketing their stuff?
I don't know. But there are a lot of good Apple TV shows that no one knows about outside like the pundits and like the critics. It's very odd, because they don't even market their products in their own app. Like when I log in, there'll be like three or four things on that scrolling wheel, and that's it. It's so hard to navigate. You would think that like you would actually look at Paramount, Hulu, all these other streaming services. Before every one of the whatever show you're watching, they show a short ad for their newest thing. And I hate that, but Apple TV doesn't even try to do that. They don't show you what's happening. I didn't know Severance season 2 was happening until my brother found it, because he's a huge fan. It was like, for me, it was like, it's a pretty good show. I'll watch season 2. The fact that no one knows about it, and you'd think they'd be able to market. They have so much money, they can market anywhere. Like, name a social media network, a social network, they can put an ad up. They're really bad at marketing their product. So many people I know have never heard of Mythic Quest. And I'm like,
great show.
Phenomenal show. It's so good. So many people have never heard of it. And so many people that would love it immediately. It's made for them. Apple's just very bad. There's another show in there, I think it's called Let's Get Physical or something like that, with Rosie Brine. I love that show, and I'm not even the audience, but I like the show because I like the actress, and so few people know about it. They have there's a lot of good stuff on Apple TV that no one knows anything about, because they're so bad at marketing.
Like For All Mankind, Silo, Foundation.
All good. The Foundation series for me was a little lackluster.
Their movies for me have been better and ignored, like Tetris, and that one Mark did the family.
Good shout.
Tetris was phenomenal. Yeah. Well, didn't they do the Nike one too?
No, that was Amazon.
Oh, that was good too. So yeah, they're just really bad at marketing, and I can't explain it, because they're good at marketing their phones, but they're really bad at marketing everything else.
Well, it's two things. They're bad at marketing, and they overspend. Like I think,
Right.
and that's the big problem that we've talking about a lot with a lot of these major studio movies, where they will, whether their marketing is bad is usually a part of it, but also it's because they're just spending way too much on their projects.
Yeah, Apple TV made Argyle, and Argyle cost $200 million to make, and it looked like it cost about $10 to make.
Yeah,
well, it's because half the money went in the production company's pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the typical thing with a lot of these things, and the other side of it is I've said it before, and this is kind of going off what Odin had said, is the studios became the underwear gnomes, right? They looked at Netflix and they're going, we want to get one of those because look at how much money we're spending on this Netflix thing. They're getting all our money, right? And look at all the money they're making. We need to do that. So let's start our own service and then we'll make profit. They didn't think about how that middle thing works, just like the underwear gnomes, right? They didn't know where the money was going to come from. Not thinking about, if you're making the product and you're buying your own product, you're not going to make anything, right? Like we've said it time and time again. If you have $20 in one pocket and it's made up of two tens and you take that $1.10 and put it in your other pocket, you don't have, $10 more now. You just put $10 from one pocket into another pocket, right? That's what these companies are doing. They have been doing. And Andre said it best. Netflix and Hulu were basically the format. And they screwed it up. They basically decided they were all going to get involved in a format war, but instead of it just being like beta versus VHS or, HD DVD versus Blu-ray, it was literally every studio decided we're going to have our own format. So it'd be like back in the days of the format wars, had they all decided to throw in a completely different format. Like if you want your Disney movies, you got to buy our machine and our movies, and that's it. And that's exactly what they did. And people are like, well, fuck that. So they decided, well, we'll keep Netflix because they're the ones that have been around the longest and we have our shows already there. And Hulu, they destroyed, right? Like, it's hanging on by a thread, but they basically destroyed it. Mm-hmm. And now you've got Disney or Paramount Plus, which is barely a company anymore. They're barely hanging on. The rest of them are not even. HBO Max is like, they destroyed that freaking brand. I mean, how do you destroy HBO, one of the most well-known brands out there? Why did you
by
do
combining it with three other brands?
Exactly, and then you drop the HBO part,
and then drop the HBO, which is that is the BMW. That is the part of your brand that screams quality. Let's drop that. It's like creating a vehicle from BMW and it's removing the BMW part of the brand. It makes no sense.
I want to know how many
and half the content is from Discover or whatever. How many Naked and Afraids do you need? Really? Naked and Afraid in every single format. There's like 17 of these shows.
So popular, right?
Discovery is probably the one that ends up doing them the best numbers because a lot of that stuff costs nothing to make, and women love.
That's true.
Well, what else, Brett? I said this back before David Zaslav even came into picture. I used to ask all my cousins and friends and people that, at family functions and whatnot, what streaming services they have, what they were watching and stuff like that. And at this time, even Paramount Plus was still CBS All Access, for instance. Yeah. So this is a while ago. And the one that everybody kept saying is like, oh, some people said they had, Netflix and something else. Some just had Netflix or whatever. And the one thing I kept hearing, though, was like everybody said, well, we have Netflix, but we also have to have Discovery Plus. I'm like, what do you mean you have to have Discovery Plus? Well, we have to, otherwise we miss out on all our shows.
Yeah.
And that was like across the board. And I'm like, God, I never heard. And I'm thinking going, they're not saying they want it. They're not saying they just have it. They're saying they need it.
They have to have the shows about houses getting fixed up.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, so whatever they're doing over there, Discovery is working. And the next thing you know, Warner Brothers brings in the guy who made Discovery what it was. And I'm like, well, that was a smart move. And it was until they dropped the fucking HBO.
Yeah. Like dropping the HBO was their biggest crime. Honestly, that's the biggest. Like that's the worst thing you could have done was dropping the HBO. I get the understanding of having like Max.com. Great, make it easy. But like just leave HBO on the branding at the very least.
I think that Apple TV also has
I went off on a venture.
I think Apple TV has a branding problem. The way I see it is, look, I make the joke on our show all the time that I will never have Apple TV Plus, and I call it pretentious. I say I hate A24 and I hate Apple TV. And there's a marketing problem there where I think that a lot of those titles, like you
they
said,
do have like a eliteness about them.
Yeah, there's an elite tone to it, but then they also make Argyle and the Fall Guy and what was it, the one with Challengers, right? So they're tonally, you know, when you're launching a service like that, they didn't bring in any big IP that they could latch onto and give their service a feeling and a tone. And right now, you cannot take Netflix. You just can't. Like, Netflix just added 8 million more subscribers. They're pushing people to their ad tier. Netflix is moving 2 steps ahead from what everyone else is doing because they understand that the money isn't even in the ad-free versions of these streaming services anymore anyways. They want to push everyone to the ad tier so that people can pay $8 a month to also see ads. And I just want to know, like so many of these streaming services like Disney Plus, or even like you were saying, HBO, you get it free with your phone plan, right? Like, that's how most of the people that I know that have HBO, they have it because their phone plan has it. How do they not have something going on with people buying that gives them access to Apple TV? Or is that a thing?
They do. So whenever you buy an Apple device, you get like a year free of Apple TV access.
And then they need to market that.
Which keeps the eliteness, though. It keeps that eliteness because there's also that eliteness that's oftentimes
you
put to
Android
Apple
user.
devices.
You don't get to watch Severance.
Yes.
Right.
Well, you know, speaking of the eliteness,
I've never owned
Brett,
an Apple device though, and I have Apple TV, so I don't know.
yeah, I mean, you can sign up for it independently, but you get it free for a year if you buy an Apple device. But Brett, I wanted to ask you, because part of Apple's strategy was that they weren't going to license content for Apple TV. They were going to make all the content original to Apple TV. And that was kind of like their value proposition in terms of like their eliteness. What do you think of that strategy? Because keep in mind, Steve Jobs was like the guy who came up with the idea of having like this little computer that you could like watch TV on, connect it to your TV to compete with like the TiVos and stuff, like, you know, back before Netflix was really like dominant in this space.
I mean, that's great in theory, but when there's like Apple is one of 2 major platforms for phones that it dominates, right? So you don't have that type of market share in this industry, and licensing out maybe 1 or 2 big properties and getting your hands on them before moving into your original content, in my opinion, would have been a better idea. If they could have gotten their hands on G.I. Joe and done like prestige G.I. Joe, I would have loved to have seen something like that. It wouldn't have happened, but I don't know. I think it's great in theory, but the average viewer isn't going to care about something like that, because people like us are the ones that care about whether you're producing original content versus IP. The market share you're looking to fill is the normies, and the normies don't care about stuff like that.
Yeah, right. You know, Dutch, Apple has struggled with, you know, having like a major IP it can hang its hat on, because, you know, Amazon has Lord of the Rings, WB has, and HBO has like DC stuff and Dune and all this other stuff. When it comes to Apple, like, they've tried doing the Monsterverse, they've tried, you know, doing Foundation, they tried doing these things that just never seem to take off. What's your take on Apple basically spending more money than they know what to do with?
Well, I think, first off, Apple has more money than they know what to do with, right? So, I mean, they basically have more money than most countries in the world's gross national product put together combined. So they might as well spend money and make some really high-end stuff. But I'm not sure what their deal is, but they try to make really highbrow content, right? They make stuff like Silo and Foundation. And then
I hate it.
And then when it comes to stuff like Foundation, you know, they you know, like Jude, book reader, she hates it, can't stand it, doesn't want nothing to do with Foundation. She's pissed off when we cover it because they do it so bad. Whereas me, a non-book reader, I think it's great. But, you know, it's that never-ending book reader versus non-book reader war when it comes to most science fiction and fantasy stuff. But I really like most of the stuff that Apple puts out. I don't like Severance. I can't get into it. I've tried. I tried again just a couple days ago because we talked about it, Matt. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it again. And I turned it back on. And I'm just like, this is just not for me. But, you know, there's stuff on there like C and Foundation, and it's even fun to like make fun of terrible stuff like Invasion. I mean, Invasion's one of the worst things on any streaming service ever, but it's fun to talk about because it's so bad.
And they keep renewing it.
Right. It's just like, what are you doing, man? But and Ted Lasso, I could restart Ted Lasso from the beginning right now.
Yeah.
And have no problem rewatching the entire series.
Yep, no problem.
Fantastic. It's fantastic.
Great show.
Same thing with Mythic Quest. Apple puts out some really good stuff. And
sometimes I did Mythic Quest on the background just watching it while I'm working.
Look, when Mythic Quest, somebody like me, all right, I'm kind of judgy. I generally know what things I like and what I don't. And, I get tired of things that have the message, and all this bullshit. And and a show like Mythic Quest is very diverse. It runs the gamut of all kinds of characters, straight, gay, whatever. But once you get into that show a couple episodes, you realize that that's not what the show's about. They
make fun of it. In fact,
they make fun of it a lot. DEI executive.
They really do. But it's really good. It's really good, and it's well written, and it's fun, and it's nerdy, and it's about video games. And I think the old World of Warcraft nerd in me just ate that show up, and then you get into some really deep, sentimental episodes. I never seen Matt cry.
The COVID one
until Mythic Quest and the story about the writer when he was young. Man, that was a really heavy, deep episode.
Dude, even the COVID one was really powerful. Yeah. I mean, because I was because there were some other shows that tried doing stuff with COVID, it just didn't work. But that one worked. I was like, yes, and they capture that emotion, like the ending where just that there's this hug that happens, and you're just like feeling it because you're watching it during this time when people are still shut down. It's like, oh my gosh.
And it's unfortunate that it's a show like that is on this little niche network that most people don't watch. And it shouldn't be, because you know what? Everybody has one of these. Everybody has access to like a free account of it for like 6 months to a year. I think you can get Apple TV for free. Go watch go watch Mythic Quest, watch Silo. Check out some of these others. There's like 50 series here. I'm looking at a list right now. It's insane, and there's some really good stuff on there.
And they also have no plan to get anything outside of their streaming service either. Like they don't really do much with physical media as I think.
Also, one of the best TV shows like ever, in my opinion, is For All Mankind.
Oh,
and that's kind of relegated to Apple TV as well. But were there any final thoughts you had on this, Dutch, before I move on to Tom?
No, go ahead, go.
All right, Tom, I wanted to get your take on like the kind of current landscape of the streaming wars, because it seems like, Apple's not the only one pulling back, trying to do austerity measures, because they're all basically admitting that they all failed in this, and Netflix is just sitting there with their cigar laughing at them. So, with the decline of Paramount Plus, with the decline of Apple TV, with the decline of HBO Max. In fact, they had to team up with Disney just to kind of like get people to, watch their streaming service. We're just seeing across the board that these studios are realizing that they need to go back to the old licensing model. And I liked your kind of your equivalency of the format wars. But to me, it's not so much a format war as it is like a content war. And it was really about people saying like, hey, we don't like your content, so we're not going to be paying you.
Well, and that's kind of what led the format war at the end of the day, or at least won it, right? A lot of people like to say, oh, porn won the format war. That's bullshit. Porn was putting anything on everything and everything they were anyway. What won the last format war was Disney. Yeah. Disney decided the last format war. Once Disney decided we're going Blu-ray only, that was when content was, okay, so that's where all the content's going to be that I'm going to want. Right, because Warner was one of the few companies that was teetering in the middle, and Disney was the other, and Universal and Sony were on the Blu-ray train, and Paramount and the other Lionsgate, I think it was, were on the HD DVD train, and so Warner was just kind of sitting there waiting to see what Disney was going to do, and Disney was kind of sitting there waiting to see what Warner was going to do, to see which one was going to make a move first. And it all went down at one of the electronics event shows, I think right there in Las Vegas, where just in a matter of hours, the format war was decided when Disney's like, from here on out, we're going Blu-ray only. And that moment, the HD DVD camp just went, we're done. And they were. It was over with that. And you're right. It is about the content at the end of the day, and who has most of the content, and who has content that's not one studio, and that was usually Netflix, right? They're the one people that had stuff from everybody, and they were still, up until a point, Disney was the only one who really pulled all their content from Netflix. Everybody else still was licensing out TV shows and older movies and stuff to Netflix. Disney was the only one who made all their stuff exclusive. And then Sony, on the other hand, they just kind of kick back and say, well, we're just going to see what the hell happens. We're not going to even get involved. So they were the only ones who technically did win the actual streaming war, if you think about it, because they didn't sink any money into this crap. They've got a hella deal right now with Netflix to where they basically pay for their movies, right? Like Odin can tell you how much money they're going to make off of something like Garfield this year, because basically Netflix paid for it. So every bit of money they made in the box office was like gravy to them at the end of the day. And a lot of their movies are like that. Same thing with Ghostbusters, another movie that didn't make its money in the box office, but guess what? It will be profitable because of the sale to Netflix, and it's number one right now on Netflix. So there you go. They're the ones who won the streaming war, if you really want to know. And going forward, it's going to be interesting to see, because like Universal, I bet you Peacock's going to drop off at some point or combine with Paramount or something like that. That's been one of the rumors going around, and even HBO Max might even do that too. So at the end of the day, I think that's what's going to happen is a bunch of these guys are going to conglomerate. Netflix is going to be the last man standing, and Sony is the actual studio that won the war. And that's just simply because they didn't get involved. And they're the only studio that's been profitable the last couple of years, basically. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that at all, Odin. But
I was gonna say, it's also like the other thing with Sony is also because if you look at the general budgets for what they spend, it's not the insane amounts that you see from the likes of Disney and others too. So yeah, all those things together is why Sony is in a much better position.
I think my favorite thing to come out of Comic-Con was when someone asked if there was going to be another Madden Web movie.
I think they learned their lesson with Morbius. And at least they didn't spend any more money on Morbius.
You
guys are actually watching Comic-Con news, man. I am so uninterested. It is unbelievable.
I'm waiting for it all to come out first before I go crazy.
Yeah,
anything that really come out that has been like earth-shattering, like we already know everything.
Not really. I like the new DC logo, which is the old DC logo.
Well, guys, speaking about the last man standing and these wars that are being fought, let's talk a little bit about Gina Carano and how she just had a big win in her case against Disney. So this came out within the last couple of days, where basically a federal judge struck down Disney's appeal to basically dismiss this lawsuit that Gina Carano, with the help of Elon Musk, has been waging against Disney for what is it? Something about
discrimination and
unfair dismissal or something. Yeah, wrongful termination. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate that. So basically, what Disney was arguing, and they were kind of referring to prior cases where basically, there was a Boy Scout court case that got thrown out because they wanted to hire a gay scout leader or something like that, and got taken to court, and eventually it was ruled in favor of the Boy Scouts. And Disney was basically saying like, hey, because of this precedence, we're allowed to basically fire anyone we want for whatever reason we want. And the judge basically looked at that and was like, well, actually your argument's unconstitutional. You're a for-profit corporation. You don't hire based off of these values that you say you espouse. Therefore, you cannot fire based off of these values that you espouse. You're violating free speech and all this other stuff. And so basically, she just slapped Disney around and said that, you're going to get sued. And so now the court case can proceed. And it looks like if the other judges in this case rule similar to this judge, Disney could be on the hook for quite a bit of money to Gina Carano. So I wanted to just kind of get the panel's reaction to this. Dutch Butters, do you think that this is a good development for Gina?
Oh, of course it is. She's going to get to tell her story in a court of law and on court TV, or what, if that's still a thing. It's going to be it's going to turn into a much bigger story going forward than just something in our little nerd world. It's going to expose Disney for a lot of hypocrisy and nonsense, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I have a feeling they're going to offer her some kind of out of court settlement that's probably going to be hard for her to say no to. But I kind of feel like she's not into it for the money at this point. But I guess we'll see.
Well, Brett, one of the interesting developments about this is that if Disney decides to go to court, Elon's lawyers now get discovery, so they can start diving into all of Disney's deep dark secrets. Do you think that Disney might bend the knee to Elon to avoid that?
The discovery was the big part of what that was the big part for me as well, is internal memos and documents that could come out regarding all of these things. And we know, like, Disney had a huge leak last week, terabyte of data of Slack messages, and if they can get their hands on all sorts of information regarding this, and all that has come out as well. I mean, John Trent has extensively documented, all the things that were just put, for the public online that are damning in a lot of ways. So we'll have to wait and see for this. It's a long road for stuff like this. Like, for some reason I had deja vu. Like, I could have swore we talked about this a month ago. Like, I was like, did another denial from a judge happen? We had a video talking about this, but I think it was initially.
No, what happened was this. Yes, that was for the motion. And at that time, the judge had not made her decision. Yeah. But she had hinted that it would most likely go to trial. Yeah. So we kind of already knew that, but so it wasn't necessarily a surprise. But it's just basically what you were saying is I don't think it's about the money. It's about sending
she's not
a message,
funding
like
it
the
either,
Joker
right?
said. Yeah.
Like it's that she doesn't have to.
But it's still ultimately her decision. But
Like, one of the ways that companies like Disney, big enterprises get you is they just drain you of resources with endless injunctions, and they keep you in court forever because the average person cannot afford to stay in court. And eventually they just have to either drop a suit or settle. And with Elon's backing, the hope would be that they can't just drain her of her resources and force her to either drop the suit or enter some type of, NDA or, settlement with an NDA. The hope would be that those documents come out in discovery and you learn what's really going on. The gender-based discrimination part of it is still the most interesting to me, given the parallels to Pedro Pascal and obviously the endless claims that he has made, or the tweets and the posts on Instagram that he has made. But it should be interesting to see.
Well, also, Brian, a big part of this is Elon sending a message, right? Mm-hmm. Where he's like, if you go after someone for what they post on my platform on X, we will fight you. And so think twice about firing people for what they post. And it's basically like another defense of free speech, where he's like, I don't want people to have to suffer life-altering consequences for using an app and saying what they think. Right. And if he can actually take Disney to the woodshed on this, I think that most Hollywood studios and big corporations and stuff like that probably will start thinking twice about firing someone who they don't like their post on X. What do you think about that?
No, I think you're right. And the whole cancel culture thing is really bad because it actually manipulates the narrative. Because people that have opinions but have careers or jobs or have any kind of public persona are too afraid to share those opinions, and because they're too afraid to share those opinions, the actual social wind, the social climate is not clear. We can't actually we can't get a beat on what's happening and what people are feeling. And I've always said this. Good ideas flourish in the sunlight and bad ideas die in the sunlight. The problem with cancel culture is you force people that have bad ideas into the dark where they fester and they grow and it becomes a cancer. We need freedom of speech is important because we need everyone to be able to speak so we can root out the bad ideas. We can shame the bad ideas and we can encourage and promote good ideas. That's why I love Elon Musk. He's not perfect, but the guy went out of his way. We really risked a lot with buying Twitter, turning it into X, and he's further risking his money, his career, his legacy by promoting freedom of speech, not just defending it with his words, but defending it with his pocketbook. He's putting his money where his mouth is, literally. and I think it's a good thing, and hopefully it continues that way. Hopefully the next generation, the pendulum can swing far enough away from where it's at currently, so that freedom of speech will be as imperative as it is to us, to the next generation, to generation whatever comes after Z, Alpha or whatever,
Yeah, Odin, in our online community, our little corner of the internet, we've all been big advocates of Gina because she didn't really do anything wrong. Like, she was kind of non-political, but she was just kind of tweeting about common sense and hypocrisy. And there was like this big drama that happened at Lucasfilm where basically it was like Game of Thrones over there, where they were just like targeting her and bad-mouthing her, trying to destroy her reputation, trying to destroy her career because they didn't like her tweets. And when we heard this news online, a lot of people were kind of cheering for it because a lot of people are in Gina's corner, and she seemed to be very happy about the news going forward. But the thing that just kills me about all this, and I think it's the biggest crime here, is just the sheer hypocrisy that Disney and Lucasfilm just constantly put out there, where you have literally actors of theirs, looking at Mark Hamill in particular, and George Takei, people who were actually saying, like, I wish that the bullet had hit President Trump like an inch to the right or something like that. Calling for actual political violence and spreading like misinformation and hatred and all this other stuff. But because they're on the right side of the aisle politically, they don't get any kind of repercussions that Gina did, where she basically just posted a very common sense meme. So what's your take on all this? Do you think Disney's in trouble because of it?
Oh, I think so, absolutely. I'm very lucky to have been able to have met her and talked to her. And the thing that you notice right away when you talk to her, when out of the public eye, is that she's the same exact person, both on and off screen. And ultimately, that just means she's a sweetheart. And that's what makes it even more infuriating, because when you know that a person is just a genuinely good person, and then you remind yourself of what she went through and how she was treated, it just makes you that much more frustrated and angry with it. So I'm so happy to see that this call for the case to be dismissed has itself been dismissed, and that there is a good chance for it to go to Discovery. And I think that also it's going to be good, because one of the things that Gina has been very consistent on is about how what her goal is that she wants her story to be told. And so that's why I do think it will likely go through to Discovery. Like the trial will go to certain extents, whether there is a settlement at some point. I think she's even indicated that it's obviously a possibility, because there are things that she has to consider, and what is the actual victory. And I think for her, the victory is going to be that her story is told, right? That on a public stage, it is made clear how she was treated, why she was treated the way that she was. Because we often, I think, sometimes forget, it's not that she was just fired for this specific, this specific tweet that was out there, or this post on Instagram that was out there. It was also, she was made to go through some really disturbing things. I mean, when she changed her Twitter profile to beep bop beep, or beep bop boop, and it's like that, those are my pronouns. And then she, had to sit through, was it 50 trans activists all like talking
a struggle
to her
session.
Session.
She had to go on some kind of Zoom call.
Yeah,
right?
it's like that's disturbing. Like just that kind of treatment. And so that
it was a sensitivity training session.
Exactly. Yes. And so for that to be exposed, I think that would be also a major win too, because maybe that could down the line also make further the possibility of further decisions making something like that either illegal, or just exposing that for the nonsense that it is. And what's even more so, and the last thing I'll say on this specific subject is, it's even better because at a recent event that she was at, she made a comment basically saying how something recently posted actually over the past 6 months actually is like a death knell in many ways for almost any argument against what her argument is. And that's because Mark Ruffalo put out a tweet literally connecting what he suspected like Trump and Trump's people would be like with Yahtzees, which is the same exact type of thing that was put out by her, only she was not putting it with any political party. She was just saying, hey, if we're all supposed to be spying on our neighbor, telling our, turning in our neighbors for not following certain protocols or things like that, it's not very different than what was going on at this time. And yet last time I checked, Mark Ruffalo is still very much involved with Marvel and everything else, and like there's no word on him being completely excommunicated from their from their company. So I think that also is going to be something where it's like, okay, you can't even talk about now the merits of the specific subject matter of her comment, of her post, because you have someone else that you did not treat the same exact way for having the exact same kind of comment.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about Tom Connors Jr., as I follow him on Twitter, is he's very good at calling out hypocrisy and idiocy with reckless abandon, taking full advantage of that free speech on X. And Tom, like, you've been very vocal with all the people who have been like, kind of like bad mouthing Gina and saying that she's like a, far right, like Yahtzee supporter and all this other stuff. What's your take on this? And do you think that Disney should be sweating it right now?
Oh God, yes. They should be scared shitless. Because to be honest with you, yes, there's a possibility of settling. But I think she's made it fairly clear that she will not settle for anything less than what she's asking for.
$1 billion.
Yeah, $1 million. And no, what that does include is obviously some sort of public apology, I believe, being reinstated at Star Wars. And those two things are going to be probably the two clinchers, right? Again, I was joking, but I'm being honest when I said, like the Joker said, it's not about the money. It's about sending a message. And that's what this is about. And the best way to compare this, even though they're completely different cases, but similar in some ways, is the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Because there, Johnny was going in with the idea that it wasn't necessarily about winning. Winning was getting his story out there. Winning was getting the video evidence out there. Winning was getting the pictures and stuff out there to show that I'm not the crazy one here. She is, right? So this is Gina basically coming out and saying, I'm not the crazy one here. They are, right? And that's the beauty of this whole thing, is it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Disney is basically stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either now they do give her everything she's asking for just to save face and keep any of this other crap coming out in public, or they actually try and weather this and probably face one of the worst black eyes that a studio has had since the Sony leak. Because you're right, they also had another leak last week. I think Brett brought it up, or I think it was. Like that's another thing that's being combed through right now by nerds like us. So don't think we're not going to find some more juicy stuff in there. We only found a couple things so far, but this is where the real dirt is, because this is going to be the back and forth. This is where we're going to be able to see where she was put through a struggle, or almost forced into a struggle session. And then where she basically said, why don't we do this instead? And that didn't work out for her. And at the end of the day, she stood her ground. And what did they do? They fired her. They blacklisted her and all these other things. They took her character and drug her through the mud, right? Like, that's the thing, is people not really look. We all know that we know who Gina Carano is, but most of the general public had just started to get to know her or didn't really know her yet. And then finally, after all this stuff happened, you had people like my own dad, who's like 70, basically going, who's this lady over at Star Wars now that's like a Trump loving Nazi, and all this other stuff. And it's like, because he's basically being fed this crap through the media, right? It's the same media that made the monster that took a pot shot at our president 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now, right? There's no culpability here whatsoever on their part, right? At the end of the day, but it's ridiculous. But I'm sure you guys have more to say about it than that. Well, I hope she wins. The discovery is the main point.
The best thing that could happen is she wins. They give her job back, and then we get to watch.
What?
Brett, your microphone's all screwed up.
Robot.
Brett, we can't hear you, Brett.
Good.
You are a robot.
Yep. The best
Max Headroom.
thing that could happen. Yeah. The best would be she gets her job back, and then to watch her have the really awkward first day at work back.
Yeah, seriously.
Do you want to repeat your comment, because we didn't hear most of what you said?
Got it? My back?
You're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I said the best thing that could happen is that she gets her job back, and then we get to watch the really awkward first day back at Disney, where she goes and starts filming The Mandalorian again, and everybody has to interact with her.
Based on what I've seen, though, at least when it comes to like the people like in production, it sounds like it wouldn't be that like difficult of a transition back for them, at least, because it sounds like most of them still genuinely like her, like the ones that aren't like the executives at the top.
The two most awkward people would be like KK and Pablo Hidalgo.
Then film her.
And let's be real, one of them would probably have to be a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. Well, guys, but before we get to our next story, which has to do with Disney as well, because I wanted to talk about some connected stuff, I want to give a big shout out to Jim Alaska, who gifted 10 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. We are now at 21 gifted memberships for the show. Nice. Really appreciate you guys. We have way surpassed our goal. Thank you so much, Jim Alaska. And I know everyone who got those gifted memberships appreciate that. And also, for those of you who have gifted memberships, be sure to check out our members area on YouTube. It's a playlist. All of our members' content is in it. And we just posted one this past week with us reacting to a bunch of new trailers. So that was a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out. And also, Nikki D for $5. If you were hired to be the CEO of Lucasfilm with mostly unlimited authority, what steps would you take to course correct Star Wars? So, panel, real quick,
everything.
Fire Captain Kennedy, first move.
Yeah, this is a whole podcast or 12. This isn't
this is a series. This is a series.
The easiest way to answer this is basically once you take office, you say all this stuff that Disney did for the last 10 years is now legends.
Clean house. Clean house.
Basically, and then clean house from there. Get rid of everybody from top to bottom.
Yep.
Start from scratch.
Yep.
Do something set somewhere far away from the Luke Skywalker part of things, and try to start anew.
You know what you do? Yeah, clean house, and then the first thing you do creatively is OG Thrawn trilogy. Boom.
Something like that.
Boom. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't rocket science to begin with. JJ just, I don't know what he was thinking back in the day. Speaking of not knowing what's being thought about, so guys, this news kind of broke. It's been not getting a whole lot of coverage, but Ike Perlmutter sold his entire stake in Disney after the failed proxy fight that he entered into alongside Nelson Peltz to basically fight for the heart and soul of the Disney empire against Bob Iger. I actually want to start with you on this, Brian, because of the people on the panel, you hold the most Disney stock. And it has been tanking recently, mostly because apparently not only did Ike Perlmutter sell all of his stake in Disney, but Nelson Peltz also sold all of his stake because he's like, well, I don't want to go down with a sinking ship. And basically they lost their fight and the bad guys won. And now there's no one there to help them stop their woke agenda. There's no one there to help them recover from their bad decisions. So, Brian, what's your take on the guys who were fighting for the heart and soul of Disney to basically say, fuck it, we're out of here?
We're out. Yeah, they're taking their ball. They're going out. And they're leaving all of us poor bastards with an average buy-in at about 128 to just wither and die on the vine. Yeah, you're right. About 70% of my portfolio is Disney. There was a time where I was like, look, they're at the lowest they've been historically, and I'm just going to keep buying it. And I just bought it for week after week. Every time I got a check, I spent some money. I bought some shares, and I thought I was in a good place because it could only go up from here. First time ever, Disney's on its knees because of COVID, and all the parks are closed. I need to buy in before they stand up again. And, God, it's gotten progressively worse.
Get out,
just
bro.
Every week. I can't get out. No, you understand. Like, if I get out, I lose my shirt. Like, I can't get out. The stock has got to go up to about 130 before me to get out in a reasonable. And that's not even like winning anything. That's like barely even. Like, that's like me loaning them my money for 3 years. No, it's bad. It's bad. It sucks that they lost their fight against the evil Empire Disney, Emperor Mickey. But
just take that money, get it out, and go buy stock in some like these AI businesses that are getting protested.
No, I'm not doing that.
Just put it into Ethereum, man, and then it'll grow in value.
I'm gonna lose like $8,000
because it's just gonna keep going down. Gina's gonna get all that stock money, and it's gonna go.
That's not true. So the thing is, though, some businesses are protected. They're too big to fail, and inflation alone will eventually cause me to get back to even. It might just take 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
enjoy that when you're 70. Okay.
yeah, when I'm 70, I might get my money back, and it's funny because like the value of the dollar by then will be so low. It would still be like me losing $8,000. Anyways,
So, Dutch,
this is where we're at.
would you recommend buying Disney stock or
Dogecoin. Dogecoin.
I have Dogecoin too.
My crypto wallet is up $7 this week.
I have a lot of Dogecoin, you guys.
Oh, I don't know.
I have a lot of Dogecoin. There was a time that I remember buying Dogecoin when it was like 5 cents, and I bought a ton of it, and it went to like 60 cents, and I sold, and I felt really good. So then I bought it again when it dropped again, and then it never went back up. So it's at 11 cents now, and my average buy-in I think is like 18 to 20 cents, something right there. And I'm gonna
go buy.
I have like 7,000 coins.
I think Brett should make some Daso coins and put them out there.
Yeah,
as
I could do that.
I make
I'll
poor
buy some of
decisions when it comes to investing.
I am up $200 total on Ethereum since I've been the last several years, and then I'm up $76 on Bitcoin since I went in.
Nice.
So
When
I
did
got
you buy
Bitcoin
in?
Cash.
Odin, when did you buy in?
with Bitcoin, it was a couple years ago. So
Yeah, like I regret not
I like
buying
turtle.
more.
Well, there's a big Bitcoin conference going on right now, and I know that Trump has been talking about exploring some options with Bitcoin, which sound kind of interesting. But Brett, I want to get your take on this, because what this signals essentially is that the people who were trying to get Disney to do the right thing and start actually caring about their customers and their business as opposed to their ideology are now leaving in droves, and they're also kind of shedding all the power that came with like their stocks and stuff like that. So how do you look at this as a signal of what's to come, where basically no one is left to oppose Bob Iger and he can just institute whatever agenda he wants?
I mean, isn't the idea that they wait for the company to hit another, point of contention, whether it's when Bob Iger transfers power to whoever ends up taking over after him, and then they try to buy you back in again? I know that they've talked about extensively that they just losing one time doesn't mean you don't try again in the future. But having two people with that much, invested sell it off immediately is painful for the portfolio. But the first thing I thought was like, I was imagining that awful scene at the end of The Acolyte when she's force choking Sol, and I'm just thinking of like Bob Iger is force choking Nelson Peltz, and the bad guys win in the end anyways. So it's sad.
Well, there's no good or bad. There's just shades of gray, according to Leslie Allen.
You can do shades of gray if you don't suck at storytelling, okay? I have to actually know what the hell you want if you want to do shades of gray storytelling.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, that's it.
Tom, what's your take on this? What type of impact do you think this will have on Disney with these two guys exiting the company?
Well, we clearly see the impact it's having. It's having a very negative impact on their stock. I mean, it was basically like Ike and Peltz just went and turned around and said,
"Screw you guys, I'm going home."
Yep.
And took their stocks and went home. And what happened?
I just realized something. If I buy in right now, I can lower my average.
Oh my God.
And it's
Brian,
guaranteed to go
I'm not
up.
going to tell you what to do because I'm not a financial analyst. But at the end of the day, I like what I think Brett was kind of saying before and other things like that. I think what they did is they decided, okay, we've gone as far as we can go with investor money, right? Because remember, Peltz, part of the money the votes he was working with was was their investment group deal. So what he did is he made the group money, right? They made, I think it was a cool $1 billion. I'm sure Ike made off like a bandit too. And now what will happen is when everything goes down to it, when it hits an all-time back low, come here probably this fall or winter, they'll probably buy in again, but they'll buy in with their own money. They won't use investor money. They'll come in with somebody like Elon Musk, the three of them, and possibly even do some kind of hostile takeover, especially if it gets really low. Because now you're at a point where things are getting so bad that if it dips back down to that $40, $50 range again, Disney's in trouble. I mean, look at the shape Paramount's in right
going,
now.
no!
I know,
time
Brian,
to buy in. You got to buy in
trust me,
now.
I
Lower
don't
that
hear
average.
Mikey for the last months, in year or whatever, going, dang it, Bob, every 5 minutes. But it's true because This is all Bob Iger's fault. The company was at a high under Chapek. It was at $200 a share. I mean, and it had never been that high before, but yet they like to say that it's all because Bob's the savior, Bob's this, Bob's that. No, he's not. He's an albatross around the company's neck, and he's turning into a worse leader than Eisner ever was, right? Because Eisner stayed too long and saw himself become the enemy, right? At the end of the day, he was one of the best things to ever happen to Disney. He almost single-handedly saved the company, you know, and then turned around and turned it into what Bob Iger inherited. And just instead of trying to kill the cancer that was created, he fed it and fed it some more and fed it some more and fed it some more, and then added a new cancer with this woke ideology, and it ballooned from there. And that's what they got. You got a company that spent more money than they ever really had to spend in the first place. They made the biggest mistake ever by buying Fox. And then they dissolve it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who here's seen Deadpool and Wolverine, but if you watch, and this is not really a spoiler, during the end credits, they have a bunch of, you know, behind the scenes old footage from the X-Men and Fox MCU movies and stuff like that. And it literally ends with the 20th Century Fox logo fading out. Like they're saying basically, bye-bye Fox.
Which is crazy, considering what they've done to bolster the other brands that they've bought. It's crazy that they're not. I mean, I guess the point being that when you buy 20th Century Fox, you're doing so with the explicit desire to bring the X-Men characters into their franchises. So
well, not just that, but buy that logo, right? That's why I couldn't believe when they didn't tell the Murdochs, like, look, we're paying $70 billion. We get the Fox.
Yep.
You call News Corp or whatever the hell you want Fox News now. We're getting the Fox. 'Cause to me, that's the name, right? So that's what matters.
What the fuck?
So Odin, I want to
see in my face.
I want to throw this to you real quick because you know we just got done talking about like Gina Carano's thing, and the idea here is that basically Lucasfilm and Disney has been taken over by wokey ideologies, right? Like hardcore feminists, hardcore LGBTQ activists, like all this other stuff. And now when you have a situation where basically like there's no one to push back against that, how is that going to continue to affect Disney's product? And do you think people are going to continue to boycott Disney or move away from Disney like movies and TV shows, even though like one of the biggest movies of the year was Inside Out 2, you know, like so, and now, you know, Marvel is getting a second life with Deadpool and Wolverine because that's going to be a huge hit as well. So is this just going to tell Disney, hey, you now have permission to go forward and do more of this stuff, or are they just going to continue to be tone deaf?
Well, first off, shout out to Brian G, who is just an absolute legend, just destroying all records here today.
We're gonna get to him.
I figured as much, but I just had to say it while it was still fresh in front of me.
Legend.
But as I've been saying for a long time, when it comes to the success of Inside Out 2 and the now confirmed success of Deadpool Wolverine, and we basically saw that coming just based on pre-sales and just the general sentiment of people. This is going to be fool's gold for Disney, all right? Because there is no denying the fact that it's a massive win in both of those camps. And I think a sleeper that some may not think has as much of a chance of success because of how it's come into existence, and that is Moana. I think that people will underestimate just how much of a fan base that there is for just the IP of Moana. I don't think the film's going to be good because it's a TV show that they've just adapted randomly to make it into a movie, and I think that's probably going to hurt just the general storyline. But I go back to a movie like Frozen 2, which had a terrible story and yet still made massive money because of the fact that Frozen was a massive IP. And so they're going to have 3 huge films this year, and it's going to make up not all, but a lot of what they lost just from the theaters last year, because they lost over $1 billion in theaters last year, and they're probably going to get close to making over $1 billion in profits this year. And so they're going to look at that and say, oh man, we're back, baby. They're going to have this again, this really fool's gold mentality, because when it comes to the MCU, the thing I always like to remind people of, as amazing as Deadpool Wolverine is, and as great as it's doing at the box office, the next MCU film is Captain Falcon in February. And it's like, I'm sorry, like you can't tell me that things are back when that's the next thing you're going to, especially when Deadpool has no connection with that film.
In fact,
I've been calling
because
Deadpool and Wolverine an island in a sea of piss.
Yes,
that's a good analogy.
It's actually, Odin, it's funny. It's because they make fun of the MCU that Deadpool and Wolverine is doing so good. So that actually should put them on their toes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about it is that, like, there are people who have been boycotting Disney for good reason. And I know there's still some that are. Like, there's still some that are like, how can you guys be giving them money and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, like, just we've had that conversation now countless times. But at the end of the day, people, I think, are going to have to realize that this is a film that's going to bring out people that have not seen an MCU film in many years, but this is not going to be the film that keeps them coming back, right?
Yeah.
Because, again, people are going to see this film because it's a Deadpool film. Because they've been hearing the connections, they've been hearing the rumors, they've been hearing whatever it is, right? It's this event film, essentially. It's basically the rated R version of a Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Where it's bringing in these things, these ideas that is pure fan service. And
that's
so,
what it's looking like now.
Yes.
Like when I was reading the box office stuff today, like that's what it's starting to feel like with all the money it's making is that it's becoming exactly like what it felt like when No Way Home came out.
Yes. And because of the word of mouth being so good on it, I mean, now they've upped the projections, but going into the weekend, they're like, oh, it's going to make 360 million worldwide. Now it's up to 420 worldwide that it's likely going to make because of how much. And I think there's a chance it could get between 420 and 450. And if it's even close to 450, the last time that Marvel did that was 2 years ago with the Multiverse of Madness. And the only reason why that film had a massive opening weekend was because of its connection to Spider-Man No Way Home. And so once people realized what that film was, though, it dropped off like a cliff. Had the worst second weekend drop. At that time, it was like it was the worst weekend drop of all time in the MCU, and it ended up not getting to $1 billion because it was just bleeding money after that. Had a massive opening and then just fell off. This one, because it's got good opening, it's got good word of mouth. I mean, that's why I think $1 billion in the first 3 weeks is going to be, I think, an easy feat for it. And we're not just talking about the highest grossing rated R film of all time, potentially. We're talking at it being very competitive with some of the biggest PG-13 films, too.
You're right about Moana, too. So we were traveling like a couple weeks ago, and we heard normies talking about Moana, too. Like people that said, like, that don't know anything about Disney that said that they're looking forward to Moana, too. So it's completely possible that ends up being the third big winner for them this year.
So, guys, real quick, we got a super chat from Shorty Short for 199. X-Men Last Stand started the post-credit scene fad. I guess I don't remember Last Stand having a big post-credit scene.
What was the first? Was that the first?
It was Iron Man.
Sorry.
It was Iron Man.
For the
wasn't
MCU,
Iron
yes.
Man. No. The first big post-credit scene was freaking Jason, Nightmare on Elm Street. When remember
Before
when
the
you
credits, though.
yes, and you had that. I remember the theater going crazy when they teased the Jason.
You're thinking of
versus Freddy
Skeletor at the end of Motu when he says, "I'll be back," and he never was.
thing. No,
I thought
I'm telling you.
it was the wasn't it the Darth Vader breathing at the end of Phantom Menace?
No,
I think she was talking about for the
Jason versus
MCU,
Freddy
for
was in the
Marvel.
90s, bro. That's what was kicked off.
We all know the
post-credit scene.
actual end credit scenes. Y'all are wrong anyway. They all started with Smokey and the Bandit 2.
Well, yeah.
And that's
Cannonball
why they
Run?
even have the joke at the end of oh god, what the hell movie? I think it was Anchorman 1 or 2, where they actually have all the outtakes, and then it ends with a Smokey and the Bandit outtake.
You're
for that
wrong,
very reason.
dude. Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he comes
Yeah.
out.
That was
That
that was 10 years after that. Jesus,
but
man.
that's what did it. When he comes out with the bathrobe, what are you guys still doing here?
What are you guys
Come
still
on,
doing?
bro.
Yeah, that was probably one of the more memorable ones. There's been plenty of them though.
Yeah.
There's been plenty. of them.
Well, guys, speaking about being wrong, Mexican Iron Man wants to call out Brian, where he says he's a member for 17 months, Mexican Iron Man. Wah, 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 Brian. My base is at 141, so cry me a Mexican river.
You're right. I'm only
Yeah, but
128.
according to Wikipedia, the first movie to ever have a post-credit scene was The Silencers in 1966.
Okay.
People who like Apple TV Plus know that. Everybody else does.
Yeah, no
Basically,
one else knows
I
that.
agree with you, Brett. Like, yeah, they are like
Well, guys, real quick,
shit.
we started the show with our favorite, one of our favorite contributors, Scotty Dub, throwing down the gauntlet with $399.99 super chat. And not to be outdone, Brian G comes back in going hard to keep his title
Wow.
as our top super chatter with $500. And his message is simply, I win. Good morning, fellow Baldies. Buy yourselves something pretty. Short and to the point. But Brian G basically just threw down the gauntlet. Scotty, sorry, I was going to be putting you at the top once again, but now Brian has just made my job even more difficult.
The graphic, right?
Well, I gotta update the numbers and stuff like that. But
Scotty's up there going, that son of a.
yeah.
He's
like,
he's checking his bank account. Like, can I even donate anymore? No.
No.
That's
but Brian, thank you so much for your generosity. That is absolutely insane. $500 super chat.
Wow.
Highest
Once again,
for the year.
Brian's are awesome.
Yes,
Brian,
that.
I just want to say one thing. Me love you long time.
Yeah. Long time.
I also have a wonderful channel called OMB Reviews. If you ever want to start
$20 is
out,
$20, but I'll tell you what,
Mute these
$500 is a
Mute
hell of a
them
lot
now.
more than 20.
Mute. I'm
All right,
thinking we
guys.
get a bottle of the high-end booze this week.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we can all feast at Five Guys for as long as
now
we
you
want.
can buy one of those Deadpool popcorn buckets I've been hearing about.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get like a week. You're gonna get like 3 days of
I'll
Five
use
Guys
mine.
with that, man. Like
You
Five
know what's
Guys is
awesome about
expensive.
this? This is all plastic except for the tongue is like
Put your
textured rubber.
Of course it is.
It is.
I can
never
still,
get
that's
these
it, I can
designed
still
by
barely
Deadpool.
hold my penis.
They are always sold out whenever I go to my theater. Every time. And
They
apparently
sold out
because
of the Deadpool cups.
some of
but I
the
got this
some of the AMCs apparently, and probably other theaters too, as soon as they open, they will sell them, and people will buy them in like groups, and it's just like,
Well,
I'm sorry, like they
yeah,
need to
they're all
start.
sold out from
I did hear
Basically,
some
they need to
old-
learn. They need to learn what Best Buy learned a long time ago, which is that you can't let someone just walk out with 20 copies of a steelbook.
Well, that's
Okay.
the thing. Yeah, there's a few things going on here. I heard of one AMC specifically. I don't know if anybody else is going to be doing this, but they found out their employees had bought a bunch of them ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I guess that manager is going to write all those employees up. And I said, if anything, they need to start making a stink higher up that yes, only 2 per customer, and none of that poaching crap. Because that's basically what they're doing. What Odin is saying is you had these guys who would go out and they'd buy all the steel books up, and then they'd sit on them for about a month, and then they'd go and throw them up on eBay for 3-4 times what they're actually worth.
Yep.
They're just creating this market for it, and they're doing the same thing with these popcorn buckets. I saw the same thing when I went to Ghostbusters and a few other ones. This guy was walking out with like 10 of them in his arms, and I'm like, why are you guys letting these assholes do this?
Because the employees don't care.
Yep.
Well, and employees are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised at the popularity of these novelty popcorn buckets.
They're fun. It's just fun. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
I'm
Well-
not shocked at all.
No, that's the whole point, right? It's like things like that don't really serve a purpose other than that they're kind of fun, end up filling markets like that.
They're making a
You
crap
got-
load
you got-
of money.
You got guys like Chris Gore out there who goes out and buys 6 of the
Well,
Dune buckets.
Just the
It's like,
just the
come
2
on, Chris.
buckets and the cup
Save
I
some
have
for the
here
rest of us,
cost me
man.
almost $100. Actually, it cost me over $100 if you count the movie in with it and all that business. But like, I mean, honestly, I mean, these things are kind of a big deal. If you want to share my screen here, Matt, I mean, I think this could have saved one of the more recent movies, Horizon.
Yeah.
Big Chief.
Who wouldn't want a Big Chief Pop'em-Corn bucket with butter tears? I don't know if you could see it there. There's a butter tear there.
That's hilarious.
Can
I would have saved Horizon.
They're like, how about we make it a cowboy hat? He's like, I have a better idea.
I'm glad we just got that super chat because that's the last one we're gonna get.
Oh, did I get you canceled? I'm sorry. My bad. I was told yesterday I'm like the Deadpool of our little group. Is that true?
Who told you that?
After that, I mean,
A couple people have actually.
Didn't come from me.
Only
All right,
if you
guys.
cup the cheeks.
Real quick, I
I'm
want to talk.
everywhere, and I always say something inappropriate. That's what they say.
Guys, I want to shift away from Disney and start talking about Warner Brothers real briefly.
Oh,
and
good.
the news that there is a new Battison Batman spin-off in the works. And I'm so confused by this. I'm hoping that maybe like Brian can help shed some light on it. But basically, there's news coming out of Comic-Con that the Penguin TV show is going to be the first in a series of what's being called the Batman crime drama universe, where basically Warner Brothers is planning to spin off another Matt Reeves idea. Now, they had two in the works. One was a Gotham PD show, and the other was a Arkham Asylum-based show that was going to be set in the Matt Reeves Batman universe. But they scrapped both of those. However, with the Penguin coming in, which is going to bridge the gap between the first Batman movie and the second Batman movie, they're now talking about doing another spin-off show in the Matt Reeves Batman universe. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, how does this doesn't relate to Gunn's take on Batman either? He's going to be doing his own Batman thing. What the hell is going on over at Warner Brothers? Brian, do you have any insight in this stuff?
The only insight I have is that I really hope that we drop this whole Battison universe. It's so poorly. It's so bad.
We were so close.
It's so dark. It doesn't fit with anything. I've never liked it. Had they actually connected it in some way to the Joker stuff, it maybe have worked. And for a minute there, I thought they were going to do that. They were going to connect the Joker and the Batman stuff together. And they could have had their own little universe, their own little realistic, dark DC universe.
Todd Phillips just said that's not happening.
Yeah, but they didn't do it. Yeah. And so now, like, the Battison universe is by itself, and it sort of sucks. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't like Colin Farrell as Penguin. I don't want to see a Penguin series. I have no interest in watching a Penguin series that connects.
Let's be real. It's not the Penguin. It's Colin Farrell in makeup to look like Richard Kind playing Robert De Niro. That's what it is.
I know. It's so bad. It's so bad. Nobody it doesn't work.
It was the best part of the movie.
And that says something.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm not defending the movie. I'm just saying, don't go after him. He's actually a good part of it.
No, but Brian's right. Like, this movie was almost like on the brink of not happening. And I was hearing all sorts of things. Like, the show was predicated on whether or not this show, the Penguin show, did well. And that was why they kept delaying it. And then there was even chance that it might not happen because the other Batman movie might happen first, and if anything it might go to HBO Max. But then yesterday, of all things, I said, Christ, now we're committed to this thing because IMAX announced that the Batman Part 2 is coming to IMAX, which means it's committed to a theatrical release now.
Right.
Stop making things that require homework. I'm sick of things that require homework. I don't want a freaking show to bridge the two.
We already went as far as we can go with this.
Madam Web's writers had the best line for all of these things. Don't do dumb things.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, this whole, like, out of all the projects that Warner's needs to drop, like, we need to drop this whole Battison nonsense. It doesn't work. Even the people that were like, oh, I liked it, they only sort of liked it. It wasn't like a huge hit. Let's drop it. It didn't work. It didn't work.
Nice from a Snyder defender, all of that is very rich.
I was told at the time, because this all happened, David Zaslav came in right after the Batman hit theaters. And the big disappointment was it didn't make $1 billion right after the Joker did. And they're like, what the hell? How can the hero not make $1 billion when the bad guy just did? They couldn't fathom it and understand it. So from
Joker
that point
was a good movie.
But yes, that's true too. And also Batman was 3 hours long. That
3
was
hours
another problem.
long.
So,
and you could barely see anything. It was so dark, bro.
Zaslav said, I don't know about this. He goes, maybe we'll do another one if you can bring me a script that isn't as expensive, isn't as long, and isn't as dark, and doesn't have, and you got to do something with that chemistry, I guess, was the other thing.
And maybe don't turn Riddler into an alt-right YouTuber?
Well, that's just it. They already took it as far as they could with the Nolan stuff.
He has 500 followers online, but still gets a hit rate of like 15 of them to commit crimes for him. That's insane.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. I get 130,000 subscribers, and I can barely get like 30 people.
You want to trigger a comment? We're gonna trigger a bunch of Battison fans. You know that. Come on, right?
Man.
No, what really pisses them off is when I said it's basically Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises all over again. It's the same damn movie. The same crap happens.
At least Batman.
I know there's people that like it, and I'm glad they do, but like objectively, it was too dark, it was too long, it was too emo, it just didn't work.
It lost me the moment that Battison knocked on the door. I'm like, Batman has not knocked on the door since Adam West was Batman.
That's true. Can I ask you guys a question? How many times have you watched that movie?
Once.
Once, and
I
I
think I
tried
saw
to
it
leave
twice.
the theater.
1.5.
I'm not
maybe.
watching a movie that sucks twice.
I mean,
I'm
I
not
saw it
doing
in theater, and then I saw it when it came out. I thought maybe it was gonna be a brighter.
I'm
on
surprised
Max.
because you guys talk about this movie like you've seen it like a dozen times. I've seen it once and didn't like it, and now I don't care. So
Oh, I saw it
just-
twice.
Anything that
I
monopolizes
gave
3
it another
hours of
shot.
my time.
I gave it a shot when it came out on Max. I thought maybe I would pick up more because maybe the theater was too dark or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I realized no, they actually made this thing dark intentionally. It's impossible to see anything.
We're talking about
the same-
time wasted. We're talking
The
about time
same
wasted.
people who made The Acolyte, right? Everything's perma-dusk and gray. And
Well, not only
boring.
that, it is woke DEI Batman. Don't make
Yeah.
any mistake about it. You literally have the one chick telling him to do better. Every white person in the movie is a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's true.
And then I'm sitting here watching a movie going, and even when they made Alfred a piece of shit, I'm like, wait a minute, is that the only reason Gordon is black is just so they can have him be good? Because it's like everybody is worthless and crap. They even destroyed the Waynes by making his mother a psycho. It's like, what the hell? Like this movie just destroyed the legacy of Batman. But yet you had a bunch of 12-year-old boys going, oh my god, did you see the Batmobile scene? It was so fucking bitchin'. Oh.
It had
It was a
res.
cool scene.
It had whatever that shit
It
is.
did
Yeah,
have
res.
some
Riz.
No
Riz.
cap, y'all.
No cap.
No cap.
I don't know what that means. So
It means it didn't have any Captain America in it.
It means
There's
no
also
lie.
there's like
No
in the
lie.
trailer for the Penguin, there's like protesters and the signs say fascism on there. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, actually, I want to throw this to you, Brett, because what surprised me about this article was where Matt Reeves is basically talking about the Batman epic crime saga, where he has all these plans to basically expand his version of the Batman universe in direct competition with James Gunn's plans for the Batman universe. So, have you heard anything about like what people over at Warner Brothers are thinking or anything like that? Like, why are they continuing to go down this route?
I mean, the funny thing is I thought this is what they should have done a long time ago, but they're not doing it right, which is like, I don't want the movies and the television shows connected. I want them to be completely independent of one another. I don't want movies that require me to have to do homework, right? Like we went and watched Deadpool, and I was thinking like, and that's a fun movie, right? But if you don't watch Marvel, none of it will make sense to you at all. But that's the point.
Yeah,
Deadpool
someone asked me,
works.
what should I watch before watching Deadpool? I'm like,
Every Fox
everything?
X-Men movie, all the Deadpool movies, Loki season
There's
2. Like, look,
23 movies and 16 episodes of
I don't-
television.
like right now, James Gunn has more. It seems like James Gunn has more institutional power at Warner Brothers, given his position, right? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Pam Abdi and them seem to have more faith in him, and that Matt Reeves has kind of been pushed off to the side. But that's because you push the depressing, boring one off to the side, and you see what they can do with it. And what's going to happen is the Penguin isn't going to do the numbers they want because you're never going to know anyways. It's being pushed off on their streaming services. Nobody is clamoring for Batman 2, at least not that I've ever seen. And it just doesn't seem worth it to me. I just feel like
Actually, I gotta interrupt and correct one thing. They actually decided now, because HBO's like, oh crap, we're not making any money by putting these shows only on streaming. So they're actually putting this and premiering all their shows now on HBO.
Oh, because they're doing
streaming-only
HBO
shows.
originals, right? Because they're doing
Yep.
HBO originals. Okay,
Yep.
yeah. That might help it a little bit. But again, I abhor the idea that I have to do homework if there's going to be a Batman 2 and watch the Colin Farrell Penguin show.
I'm sorry, I'm not watching the Penguin TV series no matter what.
Oh,
No matter what. Even if I want to go see it, I'm not watching it. I'm just not doing it.
I will only because it is I am not a defender of Batman. I thought it was vastly overrated by a lot of like people in our space. Because it actually got a lot more positive praise than negative praise in a lot of the fellowship. And I was a lot more negative towards it because it was not very good. But the only good things about it were the Colin Farrell Penguin, and then that one chase scene.
They
But it's like,
killed
when
the
that's all you
Snyderverse.
got, it's like that's not saying much of anything.
I would rather
I'm
see it-
interested in the series, but even with him, like, so I was like, this guy's giving such an incredible performance. But then immediately I said, but why in the hell are you casting Colin Farrell to then put him in this makeup where he looks like a completely different person to play a different person. It, like that was where it got me, because I'm like, look, he's giving a great performance, and like, man, I'm impressed, because I actually couldn't even tell initially. I was like, I only knew that it was Colin Farrell because I knew that going into it. But I was like, they actually did a pretty good job with that. But still, I was like, but why? I was like, well, why'd you go? I mean, he's a good actor. But seriously, like, from the behind the scenes of, why would you make an actor go through that much time in makeup to play this character when there are other actors that can naturally play that character?
Yeah, get Russell Crowe. Get Russell Crowe. He doesn't need the fat suit anymore.
Yeah. Russell Butterball Crowe. Yeah. I want to throw this to Odin real quick. So, you know, Odin, there was some stuff that came out about Zoe Kravitz that, you know, she had been inappropriately talking with minors. And that's like, it surprises me that they're continuing to like kind of stick with her after that stuff came out. And this whole thing about like, you know, maybe they're contractually obligated to do another Batman movie, but I would think that James Gunn would be like, hey, you know, like, okay, let's fulfill the contractual obligations and then like move on. But it sounds like Warner Brothers is actually like doubling down on like, you know, what Matt Reeves wants to do with his little corner of the Batman universe, and they're getting ready to release the sequel to the Joker as well, and that's kind of becoming its own thing. And so it seems like they're just going to have like a lot of competing DC properties out there with James Gunn stuff. I'm wondering what the strategy is.
I mean, logically, it doesn't make sense. Like, logically, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. I think the one argument that could be made is they're trying to create this whole worlds of DC. So it's like you've got all these separate, isolated worlds and universes. But the big problem, of course, is that just creates consumer confusion, because they're like, wait a minute, but I thought that was Batman, and then this is Batman, and wait, this is Joker. But I guess the reason why they're not really pulling anything yet is because financially speaking, there hasn't been a big loss yet. Because I mean, the Batman did not do that well at the box office, but it also wasn't a massive flop. And you look at Joker was a massive hit, made buku amount of profit. And so my guess is that because they're, you know, in a good place as far as their streaming service in general, because of the money they're making from HBO, less so from their actual service, but like just the HBO brand, there's just so much money in that name. That's why I get it. Going back to what we said before, what we've been saying for a long time, it just kills me that they killed the HBO in the Max title, because it's like, no, like that is what your money is. Like, literally the thing that's keeping them afloat is likely a lot of it's because of just the HBO brand as a channel, and how much money they make from that, from, you know, cable providers, things like that, as an individual channel too. And so my guess is that if they ever get to the point where they do start to actually lose money from those IPs, like if Joker 2 flopped, like if it was like Joker 2 flopped, that universe flopped, the Batman flopped, like all these things started doing really, really badly, that's when they might actually start to right the ship. But if they're going to keep making money, or in the case of the Batman, they're like, they made just enough to maybe justify its existence, they're not as likely going to like turn things off necessarily.
Yeah, but this is the same studio that looked at Batgirl and was like, nah, we're not even going to release this. Like why do they
how bad that must have been? I mean, think about how bad that must have been if that was like their line.
Well, they want to play nice with Matt Reeves too, because they got a deal with him, and I think that's a big part of it.
Can you elaborate on that, Tom?
Yeah, well, he's got his 5-picture deal that does not count the Batman movies. So they're going to want to play nice with him. As far as James Gunn, this makes absolutely no sense, because if I were him, yeah, I'd kill this. I'd totally kill it. Because you guys are right. Like, that was what I was told too, was like, it didn't make enough money. Like, they were saying, like, it should have made $1 billion, but it made enough money that they're like, well, we don't need to continue on with this Snyder crap because that shit costs too much. Right? Like, that was the way they were looking at it. And that's what they said. As long as you can come back with a script that's cheaper and all that kind of business. And maybe that's what Matt did. He trimmed it down. Maybe the next one will be a little bit more ground level. I don't know how they're going to do that, considering Clayface is the one I keep hearing popping up. But hey, whatever. The reason this is probably continuing and going forward is because they got some HBO money injected into it. But again, we're just taking money from one pocket and putting it into another here. So I really don't see at the end of the day how they're going to make any profit on this.
Money laundering.
And I don't think the toys or anything. So, what was that?
What did the Batman make? Like 800 million?
780?
Yeah, just under. Yeah.
770 roughly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it didn't even do that great at the end of the day. And I know the toys didn't sell because I have tons of pictures of them on clearance.
Because you'd be depressed if you played with them.
Well, right. Like, what kid? Like, look, I mean, some kids will probably think this is cool, but if I was a kid and this came out, this would be even too dark and edgy for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be just like, it's too scary and just like dark.
Well, also too, we live in a world too where, yeah, you may have had a lot of that age group saying when it first came out, this is so good. How many of them actually went out and bought the Blu-ray, bought the 4K, watched it over and over again?
Right.
Probably not as many. So
nobody
that's
has
the
3
other
hours.
problem. Yeah.
Well, and that's just it. Okay, we know that it's probably similar to or less than roughly the Snyder Bros. And for instance, the Justice League Snyder Cut only sold about $20 million worth of Blu-rays.
Yeah.
So they still lost money on that movie at the end of the day.
How many people out there though are like me? I have a bunch of Blu-rays back here on this shelf behind me. I don't own a Blu-ray player anymore.
Yeah, I have a bunch of steel books. I don't have one. I have like 100 steel books, and I don't have a Blu-ray player.
So
do you digitize them at least so that you can play them on your home server?
No, but if I needed to watch them for some reason, I do have one of those USB things I can pull out, connect to my computer, and rip it to my hard drive. But
you disgust me.
I have no need to watch them on Blu-ray. But if I need to, I have the ability to do it, but I just don't need to. They're on streaming, dude. Plus, when you buy
crap on streaming,
I say you just like Tom and I's heart when you just said that.
Yeah, you're like really pissing us off. Hold
on. Words. But you're wrong. I'm sorry. Let me correct you real quick. When you buy a lot of these steel books, they come with an ultraviolet code, which gives you a 4K version.
Ultraviolet doesn't exist anymore.
Well, yeah, no, it does.
You do realize that most
on Vudu,
4K versions are still even less bitrate than a standard Blu-ray, right?
Maybe, but on Vudu, I get a straight up high quality 4K, great looking picture 4K on my TV, whatever it is.
Yeah,
for as part of the price of the steelbook. So I could rip it. I could
enough of the physical media dick measuring stuff. Dutch Butters. Why do you think people even care about this version of Batman?
I don't know, man. I mean, I wish more people were like me and just like went and watched a movie and we talked about it for 5 minutes and then we went about our little merry way. I mean, come on, it's DEI garbage movie. It sucks, I wish they kind of would have made him sparkle a little bit, just pacify the vampire people.
That would have been funny.
Awesome.
Look.
All I know is him on the roof and he's
Battison is the worst fucking vampire in the world. It took him 20 years to become a bat. Okay,
yeah,
that's a good joke.
I don't know. It's just I don't know why anybody cares about this movie,
they don't. Just us. Literally, it's just us arguing. Everybody else is like, "There's a Penguin series coming out." Holy crap!
It's funny to me.
He's an actual good actor in the Penguin series. I might watch it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna check out the first episode, and if it's good, maybe it's good. I like a good mobster story, So who knows?
What's funny to me, Dutch, is that when me and Alex first started the Salty Nerd podcast back in 2019, the Battison movie, the first one, hadn't come out. We were talking about sneak peeks of The Suit on our early episodes.
They had the stunt man on the motorcycle running on the road. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we had all that stuff. And now, all these years later, we're staring down the barrel of a sequel to that terrible experience.
We had that kind of experience the other day when we went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. We're like, holy crap, I remember when this was announced. And I was like, why are they doing that? Logan was great. They don't need to add Wolverine. This was fantastic.
Well,
I was proven wrong about that. So
I just in my head, all I heard was even more like, "Why are you doing that?"
I want to ask the panel just in general. So, like at Comic-Con, we got the announcement that Fantastic Four's bad guy is going to be Galactus, and that the far-reaching effects of Logan, or I should say, Deadpool and Wolverine, are going to be felt coming down the road. Apparently, the Captain Falcon movie is going to address the big head and hand that's sticking out of the top of the earth from the Eternals. Finally,
everyone saw that movie.
Wait, what? I guarantee you it'll be a 5-second throwaway line how they dealt with it easily.
Well, apparently, the climax of the Captain Falcon movie happens on that island where all the Eternals were that were like
really?
Nobody saw that movie though. So if they put that in there,
bad choice.
no one's gonna have an idea of what that is.
So
Well,
me
it's
and
already
like,
exist.
Hey, I saw that movie twice.
Well,
too
Odin, you
bad.
already have a problem with this movie. This movie's like ultimately homework the movie, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to basically have seen the last
Captain
few
and
Avenger
Winter
movies
Soldier.
at least,
Yeah.
Captain and Winter Soldier, all those movies basically.
Plus the horrible TV show.
the stupid freaking TV show, all that stuff. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. You guys.
No. I was just going to say there was a time in the not too recent past where everybody was praising the MCU, right, for putting together these 20-some movies in a long years long cohesive storyline, and it was just a marvel of modern movie making and writing and cohesion. And now we're all sitting back here, it's like, man, no, I got to go watch all those damn movies because it's just all this homework I have to go do to watch this next movie that's coming out. You know, so it's like, was it cool that they did all these movies as one long story? Because or now is it not good because they're not
It's
one
because the
shots?
homework. Yeah, it's because the homework that we have to
The
do
homework sucks.
is
boring.
not
Well,
good.
And they
Also,
screwed it up from the start.
Also,
It should have been
movies
here,
are
let
one
me
thing,
finish
but not
this.
TV shows and movies.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay, I'll get
Add
that.
the TV shows.
I get that. Got to go watch 3 seasons of that shitty Loki movie to
It's like,
be
oh,
able
we
to
gotta watch.
understand what's
We
going
gotta
on.
watch 23 hours of content before we can understand this 2-hour movie. That
That's
makes
the
no
other
sense.
reason why I was complaining about the Batman, about the Penguin series. You know, those episodes are all going to be 70 minutes long.
Oh, I know.
Every
oh,
single
yeah.
one of them. There's
And
no
super
no
dark.
editor.
With like 15-minute scenes of them walking down an alleyway with dripping water, fucking reflect. Yeah, it's super highbrow nonsense that we're
There
just
are
like,
no-
"Come, move on, move
There
on."
are no.
Well, this was a
pictures
gimmick,
of
you
it.
guys. From the very start, it was a gimmick because they knew nerds, and it's just like, you know, the old variant covers and all that shit and all the other stuff. How the comic book worked back in the day. If you didn't follow every comic book, you'd get lost, right? You had to follow each and every character to keep up with the Marvel universe for a while. And it kind of, you know, fell under the weight of itself, so they had to kind of reconfigure that. How many damn times? And the movies did the same thing. Instead of having the Avengers be the anchor point, right, where that's the only movies where any of this shit really crosses over outside of a once in a while, maybe a team up, right?
Right.
They should have never had this thing where it just constantly relies on you have to have seen this show and that show and everything else. And that was part of their gimmick. Even Kathleen Kennedy used that as an example of what they were trying to do with the Star Wars universe. And she pretty much told us what their gimmick was, right? What the whole game was. That is, you make it to where everything connects, to where they have to watch everything, whether they
You know what
want
they're
to
gonna
or
do?
not.
You know what they're
And
going
that's
to
what
do?
they did. But you know what the audience did? They decided, no, we're going to check out. Because as Odin pointed out earlier, once the audience realized that Multiverse of Madness was not the follow-up to No Way Home, and, which is another problem they've already made. They've already conditioned us to think that way. And not only that, it wasn't a sequel to Doctor Strange either. It was the sequel to WandaVision.
Yeah, a
That's when
TV
everybody's
show
like,
on a streaming
Screw
service.
this.
Come
And that's
on.
why nobody has come back except for Guardians of the
Jeez.
Galaxy 3 and Deadpool and Wolverine. And I still feel like Deadpool and Wolverine has bigger legs than people think. Because I know a lot of
Yeah.
people who are waiting to hear from us first.
Yep.
Who are waiting to see if we say the movie's any damn good or not. Because they did the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy.
The true end times is going to be one day you're going to tune in, you're going to show up to the theaters and say previously on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you're going to do the whole thing beforehand.
Well, that's the
with cut together
problem,
clips.
Hey guys, real quick, we got a super chat from Kalechi Oki for $5. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably didn't. Tom, what happened to WB pushing Matt Reeves to the side and waiting for his contract to expire, especially if it doesn't include the Batman movies?
Nah, his contract was fairly new, so I'm wondering if maybe you were thinking of somebody else. I know JJ, they were doing that too.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Matt Reeves is one of that's the thing. When they made their deal with him, Warner Brothers was hurting because they had ruined their relationship with a lot of directors, especially Nolan. So they were patching things up with every director they could and making sure they had decent deals with a bunch of directors too. And Nolan and Matt Reeves is one of them. That's also when they were really, really, really whining and dining James Gunn because they wanted him in the stable as well. That was one of Zaslav's major points, is he wanted to get the stable of directors back over at Warner Brothers. Because remember, that used to be the studio that had Richard Donner, Mel Gibson, Clint Eastwood, obviously still there, but you know he's working on his last movie. You know, so I mean, this even Kevin Costner used to be a big staple over there and stuff like that. I mean, that was a place where creative directors could come and take chances and do things that other studios wouldn't normally let them do on a studio budget. So.
All right, guys. Well, we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank my fantastic panel of nerds for coming here and talking over each other so we couldn't understand what anyone was saying. It's absolutely fantastic. Before we get to that, though, to final thoughts and stuff like that, I want to give a big shout out once more to Brian G for the 5 hundos. Epic. He wins, but not to diminish Scotty Dub,
Amazing.
who gave us 399.99. Scotty,
thank you so
Scotty
much, guys.
has been a contributor to the channel for years. We love Scotty. We love Brian. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for just blowing it out of the water today. Really appreciate it. Odin of OMB Reviews. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, final thoughts would be go see Deadpool Wolverine. It's a really good time in the theater. I think that most of you will have a lot of fun. My wife, who has not been keeping up with things like Loki or anything like that, still understood a huge portion of the references. If you've seen the older films from back in the day, like the 20th Century Fox films, there is so much to enjoy from this movie. And it's worth seeing it with a theater experience too, because the crowd definitely, I think, helps add to it. And it's more of a, will it be good after the fact or not? Do you want to have fun or not? That's kind of like my thing with it. It's like, I wanted to have fun at the theater and I had a blast. But anyway, you can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitter, etc. And thank you as always for having me on.
Well, thank you for being here. Tom Connors Jr., where can people find more of you? And do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I like turtles.
And go see Deadpool and Wolverine. I had a lot of fun with it too. Don't fall for this whole idea that it's going to save the MCU or anything like that. Just enjoy it for what it is. Other than that, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark. I normally do go to like Salty Nerd Podcast, but I'm not gonna be able to make it over there today. But do go over and send those guys some love as well. I like to hang out with Mephisto once in a while too when I get a chance.
The Real McCoy podcast.
The Real McCoy. Yeah.
You said the Salty Nerds.
Did I say the Salty Nerds?
Yeah.
I meant also Pop Culture Minefield as well. That's what
Right.
Yeah,
not to be confused
I'm
with
high.
Pop Culture.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Not to be confused with Pop Culture Crisis.
Yes.
Which,
Smoke weed every day.
So, Brett, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you? And by the way, thank you for having me out at your studio a couple weeks back. It was a hell of a trip to go out there and see the Cast Castle and hang out with you and Mary and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. It was a blast having you out there. And yeah, guys, well, first of all.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. He's roboting again.
Yeah.
Well, this time he muted. Yeah.
All right.
No, he's not back yet. Not back yet. Brett, you there?
Check out Brett Dasovic at
All right.
Pop Culture.
Okay,
Crisis.
now he's back.
It almost looked like when Tom was doing the voice, it looked like he was doing.
I was trying to.
With my Scarlet. But okay, so go see Deadpool and Wolverine. And the most important reason you want to do that, I think, is because due to the amount of cameos in the movie, it's really meant to be seen in the theater. Like my critique of the movie is I don't know how much replay value it will have. So I think what you should do is go see it in the theater with the theater experience. And if you're not going to go see that, go see Twisters, because Twisters was freaking fantastic and a lot of fun as well. I love Twisters. And if you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic, but go check out Pop Culture Crisis, which is live here on YouTube 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We would love to have you guys there. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and they make it rain over there, literally.
Yeah. Literally.
Yep.
All right. And by the way, we just dropped our review of Twisters on the Salty Nerd channel. So if you guys want to see our spoiler-filled review of that, check it out. Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Final thoughts. Batman sucks. I'm watching Dexter Resurrection for sure. And I want to give a good shout out to my good buddy in Florida, the best chef I know, my boy Sosa, who's watching right now. You are the man, my dude. We're going to go hunting later on, and I can't wait to go hang out with him.
Awesome. Good stuff. And Dutch Butters, what's going on the Salty Nerd Gaming channel?
Salty Nerd Gaming channel. We're playing a lot of Helldivers still. Still love that game. They're doing a lot of stuff over there. I know the the player base has fallen significantly, but that's fine. We don't need you. Screw you guys. We're still having fun. But we're starting to ramp things up. We're doing 2 shows a week over there now. In fact, one just released while we were doing this show. You saw Alex back there behind Kadish earlier. That was what he was doing. He was putting the finishing touches on it. And we're getting ready to expand out a little bit. We're going to be playing some. We're building up to Space Marine 2. So we're going to be splitting our time between those 2 games and maybe a few other little bit of things. But we're going to be doing one podcast for Helldivers, one podcast for everything else. So it's going to be fun. And on the Salty Nerd Show, I have to go watch this Wolverine Deadpool movie. I'm going to do that Monday morning. And I know, Matt, I think you're going today, right? Or tomorrow or something. But so have fun. But I'm trying to stay off the internet spoiler land as much as I can until I go watch it. It's not hard because I just turned the game on and and that's what I do. So, but yeah, good show, guys. And I want to say thanks again to our boys that donated that money. That was amazing. I love it when these guys get a little crazy, so thanks again. And that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. So this coming week, we're doing our regular late review of these movies that come out. We're not as flexible as some of these other guys who just do this for a living. But we'll have our Deadpool and Wolverine review out by next Friday, and then our House of the Dragon review out on Tuesday or Wednesday, one of those 2 things. But want to thank our fantastic panel for being here. Also, big shout out to Scotty Dub and Brian G again. But we also want to acknowledge Shane H. Wilder, Nikki D, Shorty Short, and Kaleche Oke for also contributing. Thank you guys so much for your super chats. And guys, so be sure to tune in next Saturday, same salty time, same salty channel for more Salty Saturdays. But before we get going, I just want to thank this panel, because the power of one, the power of two, the power of many compels you.
If you only knew the power of one, the power of two, the power of many.